Welcome back, everyone, to the Wedge 52 Gridiron podcast. Today's episode will be about the Ravens' loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. I'm doing this episode completely without notes, just based off of memory, kind of give some of my thoughts, things I would have liked to see more of, a couple of highlights, but, obviously at the end of the day, more things that the Baltimore Ravens did not execute on enough to get the victory as they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 17-10 in the AFC Championship. The Super Bowl will be happening February 11th between the Kansas City Chiefs and San Francisco 49ers. To all of my Wedge 52 Gridiron listeners and followers, thank you all for your support so far throughout this first Ravens season, since the Wedge 52 Gridiron's creation. Thank you all for your support so far. Let's continue to grow and develop as Wedge 52 Gridiron and head into, the offseason, as well as, wishing to continue this next season. Of course, we will have Super Bowl content coming out next Wednesday, 1 week from today. So make sure you guys are tapped in on all platforms, Spotify, Instagram, and Twitter, to keep up to date on that stuff. And then let's jump into today's episode of the Wedge 52 Gridiron. The Baltimore Ravens lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, and their season is done for the year. Lamar Jackson's stats, I believe, were 20 out of 37 passing completions, 272 yards, a passing touchdown, and a passing interception, as well as a fumble on a strip sack caused by Chiefs defensive line, Ronnie Stanley giving up the sack there. And then, in terms of rushing, Lamar had like 8 carries for 50-something yards, I want to say. Other than that, rushing, non-existent. I will speak, more into that in a minute here. I'm very frustrated about, the lack of a run game attempting to be established by the Baltimore offense. And then receiving, Zay Flowers, 5 catches for 150 yards, 151 yards, and a touchdown. He did also have a fumble, trying to make a play, trying to get into the end zone for a second time. That would have made it 17-14 for the Baltimore Ravens with 14:55 left on the clock in the fourth quarter of that game. Unfortunately, nothing really Zay did wrong. Kid's trying to make a play. He's electric, can make that play. Was punched out by, Chiefs defender, Snead, I believe is his last name. Heck of a season by him, so another great play by that Chiefs defender. People upset about Zay Flower fumbling that ball, saying, why is he trying to reach into that end zone? The offense was stagnant the entire first 3 quarters. That was the first play of the fourth quarter. Kid's trying to make a play. You can't fault him for that. If he would have scored, you guys would be celebrating his touchdown and his efforts. So don't hate on the kid for, having a mishap. He still had the best rookie wide receiver season in Ravens history. So appreciate that fact of it. He did also have a taunting call, which in my opinion should not have been taunting. He flexed over the defender after the defender was grabbing his leg after the play. One of many calls that did not go the Ravens' way. I'll also talk about that more later on. But, the Ravens still had their chances with or without, getting extra calls or even equal calls from the referees, from Sean Smith. But that is what it is. The Ravens had their shot and did not execute well enough. In terms of other receiving stats, Nelson Aguilar had 1 for like 30 yards. OBJ, 3 catches for 22 yards. Mark Andrews, had 2 catches for 15 yards. Not really a whole lot going on there. Most of those receiving yards coming from Zay, and then spread out, pretty equally among, 5-6 other pass catchers there. Defensively, I think Roquan Smith led the way with 16 tackles. Kyle Hamilton, I believe, had 11 tackles. PQ, had 8. And then the Ravens defense, no interceptions. Were able to get 2 sacks, though, on Patrick Mahomes. Collectively, One player had a solo and then 2 halves there. The defense actually performed very well. Gave up 2 scores in the first 2 drives, 2 touchdowns, but then kind of hunkered down, allowed a field goal, on their last drive of the half, I believe, first half, and then really shut down that Chiefs offense, shut down Mahomes and Travis Kelce throughout that second half. However, the offense could not get, anything going to help out. Defense didn't have that splash play, but did do their job. I believe in the second half, the Kansas City Chiefs only had 5 first downs and about 80 yards of offense. So, if you're telling me before the game you're holding the Chiefs offense, Patrick Mahomes, in a conference championship game to 17 points, I definitely like our chances, especially with our offense. That was averaging, 26, 27 points per game, something very good like that. For them to score 10 points is certainly underwhelming in that AFC Championship game. One thing I do have a critique on the defense would be their coverage on Travis Kelce, most specifically in that first half. Travis Kelce, you already knew, is going to be the number 1 targets guy for them, for Patrick Mahomes, along with Rashee Rice, who's been, on fire. He had a decent game as well. However, Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore were both ruled out for that AFC Championship game. Not like Toney is a huge factor, but definitely a, target and option out there, as well as Sky Moore, who is a decent, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 type of guy for Kansas City. They were both ruled out prior to the game. It kind of, that's going to amplify Kelce's targets. I didn't really see the proper coverage, in my opinion. They're allowing many free releases into zone coverage for Travis Kelce, where he strives at finding dead pockets in zone defense. I would have liked to see a press coverage on Travis Kelce, as long as a follow guy, kind of bracket Travis Kelce at all times with that press man, a press bracket. Follow him around the field, make someone else on that Chiefs offense, beat you guys. Patrick Mahomes is looking for him. Travis Kelce had like 8 receptions for 100 yards and a touchdown in that first half, I want to say. Ended up on the day, I think, with around 11 catches for 160 yards and a touchdown, 8 and like 100 of those, and that touchdown coming in the first half. So, yeah, they made a decent adjustment. I would have liked to see that be the game plan heading into the game, but unfortunately that was not the case, and it did bite us a little. That's my only critique on the defense. Other than that, pretty solid. 17 points allowed to the Chiefs offense, about 80 yards in the second half. That's got to be enough for the offense to be in position to win that game for the Baltimore Ravens. Looking at the offense, something I definitely would have wanted to see more. I said it in my Ravens keys to the game in the AFC Championship preview episode, if y'all listened to that prior to the game. My number 2 key was run the ball. We did not do that. We did not attempt to do that. We had 10 designed runs, I believe. 3 to Justice Hill, 3 to Gus Edwards, 2 to Zay Flowers, and 2 designed power runs with Lamar Jackson. Gus Edwards had 3 for 20. Lamar Jackson's 2 design runs, I believe both of them were first downs. One of them he broke off for 15 yards. We needed 3 or 4, and he got 15. Zay Flowers, I think, had 2 carries for 4 yards. Justice Hill, 3 for, I don't remember. I want to say around 15 yards, 14 yards maybe. Gus Edwards averaging 6.7 yards per carry. Only 3 carries for Gus Edwards. Not sure why we completely abandoned the run like that. Yes, we were down. Most we were ever down was 10 points. And that's, throughout the entire second half. Down 10 does not eliminate the run game for an offense. At least it should not. You have plenty of time, 30 minutes and counting, downwards. But counting 30 minutes, a whole half of football, only down by 10 points should not eliminate the run game. Yes, Lamar had 8 carries. Only 2 of those designed runs. The other 6 were him scrambling, making something happen on his own. A lot of which was from, pass rush, pass blocking breakdowns. partially because the Chiefs, kind of figured out, or we're getting the hint that we're not going to try and run the ball. That only, increases the motivation and drive for pass rushers to, get creative and get pressure on our offensive line, especially those tackles that have been struggling kind of the whole season. Stanley, was better for a few games there. Struggled again in that AFC Championship, as well as Moses struggling in the AFC Championship. Establishing a run game should have been a major priority for the Baltimore Ravens. Number one rushing offense in the league, 161 yards per game heading into that AFC Championship, going against the 27th ranked Kansas City Chiefs defense. To only have 10 designed runs throughout the entire game is just absolutely, not acceptable. I'm not sure why offensive coordinator Todd Monken, went away from that. Being down by 10, only, running the ball helped benefit our offense to great measures this entire season. If we run our normal offense, run the ball when necessary, you score that touchdown, you're back within 3. It's an entirely new game, fresh game. Frustrating, lack of runs being called in that game. At the end of the day, what's happened has happened. Hopefully they notice that. Hopefully they try and make adjustments for the future. The Baltimore Ravens, team's going to look a lot different heading into next season. I'll get into, free agents, my 3 wishes, I guess, kind of for the Ravens offense, or Ravens team really in general. 3, off-season wishes, kind of, what they're looking at in terms of free agency, trade packages, all of that stuff I will get into after the season. Still the Super Bowl coming up versus the Chiefs and 49ers. Should be a good matchup. Unfortunately, the Ravens Nation will not be, rooting on the Baltimore Ravens. I still think they were the best team in the league this season. But, comes down to every single game. And the Baltimore Ravens did not show up and execute enough in that AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs. The referee situation did not help the Baltimore Ravens. Definitely at a disadvantage in that category. But, like I just talked for 12 minutes, the Baltimore Ravens had their opportunities. There was key things that they could have done drastically different to, increase their opportunity at a victory in that AFC Championship. But, that wasn't the case. Referees didn't help us out. A couple of personal fouls that shouldn't have been personal fouls. It was chippy both ways. Seemed like every time there was chippiness, we were getting called for it. A couple of no calls on pass interference. 1 or 2 of those should have probably been pass interference. Definitely one unlikely towards the end of the game. Practically got taken down on a hitch and go type of route. And then, a potential call on Odell Beckham down the sideline. That was not called, just to name a few. Taunting was kind of BS. Zay Flowers taunting was flag was called on that. Probably shouldn't have been a flag in the AFC Championship game. Another unnecessary roughness on Kyle Van Noy got called. Probably shouldn't have been, unnecessary roughness. And then another, Roquan Smith with a high IQ play, jumping off sides just ahead of the 2-minute warning, to save the Ravens, give the Chiefs a first down, save the Ravens a timeout in that time situation, save the 2-minute warning, allow their, opportunity there for the Ravens to have a chance there. Jumped off sides, hit the, right guard, I believe, maybe right tackle of that Chiefs offensive line. A normal play, hit the guy, wasn't anything extra. Got called a 15-yarder. End of the day, that one didn't really matter whether it was 5 or 15 yards. But, again, that's kind of what they were dealing with the entire game. In NFL, over like the past 5 or 6 seasons, the home team wins games 54% of the time with all referees. When it's Sean Smith as the head referee, as we had in this AFC Championship matchup, the home team's win percentage drops to 40.8%, a 14%, 13.6 or 7% difference. Definitely came into effect. But like I said, Baltimore Ravens had their opportunities. Defense played well, struggled a little bit first couple of drives. Travis Kelce kind of ate them up. But he's probably the best tight end in the league still. I think he's proven that, whether, in terms of playing abilities, Ravens still had a chance even at the end. Came down to a, defensive position, 3rd and 4 or 4th and 4 situation where the Chiefs converted on that pass over the top to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Can't really be upset at the defense in that situation. They played spectacular the entire second half. To put it all on one play, is difficult on that defense. But at the end of the day, Baltimore Ravens didn't quite have enough to get it done in Baltimore. It is what it is. Only one team can come out on top every season. This year, I truly believe it should have been the Baltimore Ravens. I believe they've been the best football team this season. In terms of next year, a lot of different things. The team will look a lot differently, I think. And I'll get into all of that in the offseason after the Super Bowl, which I'll have my Super Bowl preview dropping next Wednesday. So make sure you guys press follow right here on Spotify. Keep you all up to date on the Super Bowl preview, as well as all of my offseason content. I will be releasing a offseason schedule with what I'm thinking. That'll probably go up on Twitter, within the next couple of weeks here, probably 2 or 3 weeks. Once I start to plan things out in terms of the Wedge 52 gridiron and what I want things to look like in this offseason. Like I mentioned in the beginning, thank you all for the support so far through this first season, through the first Ravens season, with Wedge 52 gridiron along the way here. Let's continue to grow. Thank you all for the support. Please make sure you share this with your fellow Baltimore Ravens and NFL fans, and press that follow button right here on Spotify, Instagram, and Twitter. And most importantly, go Ravens.